Hey, what's going on? Jeff Ratcliffe here. Finding value at running back in the late rounds of your fantasy football drafts is no easy task, but there are some names who stand out this year. In fact, 4 young running backs in interesting situations who have the potential to give us a nice return on investment for our fantasy football drafts. So let's dive into these guys really quickly. I do think we should prioritize these guys, especially if you're a little bit thin at the position as you get into the later rounds of your draft. And early on there, in about the 10th round, currently in ADP, we're seeing Devin Singletary come off the board. Of course, this kid at the college level, super elusive, put up some big-time numbers, but there were some doubts about him coming into the pro level. Didn't particularly test very strong in the pre-draft process, and there were some questions about level of competition at the college level. But hey, the Bills went after him anyway, and think about the story that the Bills have told this offseason. They go out, they add 2 veterans in Frank Gore and TJ Yeldon, and they draft Devin Singletary in their backfield. That doesn't speak particularly well about the current backfield, that being mainly LaShawn McCoy. So there's a shot here that Singletary could have this job at some point this season, and at this point, giving a big-time discount in fantasy drafts. Now, it isn't the most exciting offense in Buffalo, but there are some pieces to get excited about, namely, of course, under center Josh Allen. So Devin Singletary, some interesting upside there on this list. Of course, we can't say this list without mentioning the name Darwyn Thompson. Just a month ago, it feels like he wasn't even on the fantasy radar. We're looking at this backfield. Damien Williams seemed locked in, and there was some chatter about Carlos Hyde. Now there's some chatter that Hyde may not make the team, and all we've seen out of Thompson has been, well, spectacular play after spectacular play. In the preseason, he's flashed major speed. And think about this. If there's a scenario where Hyde doesn't make the team, Williams does seem to be the incumbent favorite for the lead back job, but Thompson could be in that number 2 spot immediately. The number 2 in arguably the league's most potent offense, and you're getting this guy in the late rounds. He absolutely must be targeted in fantasy drafts. Here's another name, and there's a little bit to this situation depending on when you're watching this video, but the name I'm going to throw out there is Tony Pollard. So the situation will, of course, change if you're watching this video and Ezekiel Elliott is back with the team, whether he signed an extension or just simply returned to the team. Well, there's a little bit of a difference in how we treat Pollard, but here's the deal. If Elliott's still holding out, Pollard becomes an interesting name, one of the most interesting names in the draft, as a matter of fact, especially for anybody who takes a chance on Ezekiel Elliott. Because here's what we've seen in the preseason. So far, we have seen Stephen Jones, Jerry Jones, and Jason Garrett talk this kid up, basically saying he's a 3-down back. A lot of times when coaches make statements like that, for fantasy purposes, honestly, should be in one ear, out the other, because the proof is in the pudding. The proof is ultimately on the field. In the second preseason game for the Cowboys, what did we see? Well, we saw the first team offense out there for 13 snaps. Those were the snaps that Dak Prescott was on the field in the first quarter, first team snaps. Tony Pollard was out there for all 13 snaps. Alfred Morris didn't come on the field until the second team with Mike White on the field. That is telling. That actually matches up to what the top brass at the team are saying, and that is something we absolutely need to pay attention to. If Elliott is not on the field, if his holdout lasts into the season, Pollard could be legitimately the replacement for Elliott, and he has a good shot to be this year's version of James Conner from last year. Now, that being said, if Elliott is on the field, I don't expect Pollard to eat into his workload, but I also do expect Pollard to be his handcuff. So there's still value, even if Elliott rejoins the team, there's still value there with Tony Pollard. We can't overlook this kid from Memphis. And I tell you, a lot of people are, because he didn't have a lot of work at Memphis. He only had 139 carries at the college level, but the way the Cowboys are using him really shows they believe in him as a 3-down back if Elliott isn't on the field. Important information there. Let's round it out with Damien Harris, another rookie running back. Now, of course, he is with the New England Patriots. Last year, he was with Alabama. And, of course, in that Alabama backfield, they've really had a full stable back. So it's not like he had the opportunity to be an every-down workhorse or anything like that there, especially with Josh Jacobs also in the same backfield. But Harris showed us a lot. He showed us he's a good straight line guy, a guy who can work in early downs, but also we've heard from the Patriots training camp that he's doing okay in passing down situations as well. We know James White's there. We know he's not going to go anywhere. But this bodes well for Harris. Now, of course, the barrier for Harris to playing time is going to be Sony Michel. How is that knee for Sony Michel? If he's good to go, Harris is in basically a reserve role. But if anything happens to Sony Michel, we saw last year the Patriots like to run the football. They were the 5th run-heaviest offense in the league last year. So if Harris is able to get into a full-time role there, if something happened to Sony Michel, Harris would have RB2, legitimate RB2 value. So here we have 4 guys. You don't have to draft them in the middle rounds. You can wait until at least round 10, and it's likely that all 4, if not 3 of 4, will still be on the board in that range of the draft. You can swing for the fences for upside, and you know what? If you miss on these guys, you can just cut them anyway, because you're always going to need room for waivers. But I like those 4 certainly as late-round targets at the running back position. If you want to see where these guys land in our rankings, you want to check out their projections as well, you can see all of that and more at PFF.com.
Thanks for watching the PFF YouTube channel. And if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is push the button. Don't forget everything you get. A little fantasy, push the button. A little green line for the gambling aspects of the game, push the button. College football, push the button. The YouTube channel from PFF.